Well, g'day, folks. Welcome to the show. Hope you're having a really great day. Very nice part of the, or a very nice day today in the part of the world that I'm at, which is Brisbane, of course, at the moment. It doesn't look like we've had much overspraying, but I've seen some photos from Canberra in the last few days. God, jeez, if the sky were a tiger, it'd be well striped one. I got to tell you, some of the pictures that I have seen, simply bloody amazing, and I'm sure that goes for many other parts of regional New South Wales as well. Our thoughts are with you. So the last couple of days or so, I've been talking about silver and gold prices. A mate of mine's very involved in them, and there was a bit of a spike in the silver and gold prices. I spoke to both Paul and Michael from Ainslie Bullion and tried to set up a chat with Paul. Unfortunately, due to a bit of a problem with my email winding up in a box it probably shouldn't have wound up in. We missed each other the other day, but I'm really happy to say good evening, good afternoon, Paul. We're recording this a little bit earlier because I don't want to hang you up at home time tonight. Thanks for joining me today from the Ainslie Bullion boardroom.
My pleasure, Carl. Good to see you, mate.
Yeah, you too. We were talking the other day. I was asking about the price of silver and the price of gold because this mate of mine's rung and said, "Oh, gee, the price of a kilo of silver is now $1,332. 2 days beforehand, he was telling me it was under $1,300, and 2 days before that, it was under $1,100. So he was getting a bit excited about the whole thing. So I might be exaggerating on the dates there, but he's been giving me this progressive total. So am I right in saying that precious metals rallied earlier this week?
Rallied is an understatement. So I get started on Friday night when gold hit an all-time high in US dollars towards the end of trade. So that sort of closed out. There was a whole lot of positioning that happened thereafter that when it opened on Monday morning in Australian time, as the world starts again. There was an incredibly volatile opening, one that I haven't seen like that in quite a while. Wow. So Friday actually saw, everyone's been talking about the triple top, right? So Friday saw gold shoot through that technical resistance. That, I guess, lit a lot of people's interest. We then had Monday morning the Houthi attacks in the Red Sea that coincided with opening. So there was a whole lot going on, but look, it's near all-time highs still. It's come back a little bit for the last couple of days, but certainly still holding pretty strong up there. And look, and this was partly spurred on too because the Fed have started, surprise, to talk about a bit more dovish. So in terms of a bit more likely to start easing rather than this we're going to higher for longer sort of narrative. So right. Soon as gold and silver markets see that talk, and that's ultimately about liquidity. So as soon as they start to see here comes the money, so they've got this problem of too much debt and they've been trying to tighten things, and that's obviously putting a lot of stress in the system. Inevitably, right? That's their playbook, is they'll start to loosen and print money again. So the market's sniffing that out and starting to take off where it normally takes off is in precious metals. So it's an incredibly interesting time at the moment. It's such a stressed system.
So for many people and for many years, there has been a belief that the price of silver has been deliberately suppressed, has been deliberately oppressed. If you like. Now, I'm not asking for your advice on this or where you particularly stand, but from a market perspective and someone who looks at the market every day, do the figures add up to you as to why there is such a discrepancy between silver and gold versus the many uses for silver and gold?
Yeah, and look, and use is key word there. So as we've spoken about before, Carl, gold pretty much is a monetary asset now, right? So it's got jewelry, but that's somewhat monetary anyway in terms of store of value. Whereas silver's still half, so it's half monetary metal and half industrial use. So, and what we've seen in the last few years is that industrial use being in high growth areas like ESG, so solar panels, and in hydrogen fuel cells, particularly for platinum, more so than silver. But we're starting to see that renewable energy space consume a lot more silver. And some of the figures, we wrote an article earlier this year, and it was actually University of New South Wales piece that were predicting by 2027, I think it was 20% of global reserves would be used for solar, and by 2050 it'd be 98% of global reserve.
Wow.
So that's just one part, So silver is used in medical, electronics, ethylene oxide, all sorts of things, but just solar panels alone. And then, just in the last few months, we've seen enormous exports into India, China. So these big producers of solar panels and consumers of silver have ramped up considerably. Now, are we seeing that in the price? No. So that is the question, why? And that's really complex. It's not as simple as some make out to be. So the silver miners will often hedge. So some of these short positions that people think are manipulative are just miners hedging their position. But there's enough smoke to see a pretty clear fire that it's a much smaller market than gold, and so these big traders, and we're not talking speculatively or conspiratorially here, they are going to jail, right? So the big guys have been fined billions of dollars. There's literally guys going to jail for this market spoofing, and so it's real, but they're clamping down on it. So at the same time that we see this clamp down on that sort of activity and this growth in industrial, and let's face it, as we started today, when gold's going all-time highs, gold inevitably drags silver with it. Silver's just, so whilst gold's doing this, silver's doing this either side of it. So it just has higher highs, lower lows, more volatile, but it inevitably follows gold as gold goes up, and that gold-silver ratio that everyone's watching, that's still up around the 80s, right? When it comes down to, 2011, we had $48 silver and that ratio was 30. So when that gold-silver ratio comes back to 30, that just sees silver just slingshotting past gold. But what is fact, not conspiracy or speculation, is that there's guys in jail and there's banks that have paid billions of dollars of fines because of manipulation of the market. So it happens, but we're in this beautiful space now where they're onto it. So they seem to be getting penalised and they seem to be getting taken to account. At the same time, we're getting this explosion of demand. So they're, the Metals Focus, who do all the data for Silver Institute and World Gold Council, are saying that we'll be in deficit for a few years to come in silver. So that's
leads me to the obvious question: with deficits, you would think that the price would be going up, and
so it's just. Yeah, we do. And look, and for all of whatever's held it back, Mother Nature inevitably wins, and supply and demand fundamentals inevitably win. It's just a smaller market that is more easily played, but those players will want to have a good return. We just see this, the elastic band thing. So we just see these. A greater stretch in the market than we see in gold. So whilst gold's doing this, silver's doing this either side of it. And if you're getting in low and you're selling high, you're just pretty happy about that.
So for people like me, and I suppose there are a lot of people, from the Voice of Freedom that are exactly like me, and that this is their first foray into holding any kind of precious metal, and some of them may well have bought it to invest and sell at an appropriate time when the price hits X or Y. Now, what's your advice to people? Advice. Tell me what I should do if I have not a large amount of silver. I see that I got mine for $37 or $36 or $26, or because there's a range of prices people will have bought at. And today, the price sitting at 38 or whatever it is dollars, the spot sitting at around $38, looks like a good increase on what you've paid. Is now the time to sell, or should people set a price that they're willing to sell at? And maybe that should be a fantasy price in some cases.
Yeah, look, that's always a dangerous practice. I just say zoom out. right? So at the moment, we're getting a lot of buybacks. Now, you'd expect that the price is almost all-time highs in gold. Silver's still got a long way to go before it's near there, but so there's people, and let's face it, we're in hard times. So there's a lot of people that need the money. So we talk to everyone who's selling metal back to us, and I tell you what, the vast majority are just saying, I have to, right? I need the money.
Yeah.
There are some people that think, okay, I've had a really good run, the price is high, so I'm going to take my profit. Our article on Monday, I urge everyone to read because it zooms out. So we've gone through, and there's a guy in there that we share his charts, Tavi Costa from Crescat Capital. So they're a great big hedge fund that invest in these things. He zooms back and says, we've basically had 3 phases of this gold cycle. So from the 1970s, so we left the gold standard in the early 70s. So we started this epic credit cycle where everything's just made on pretend money. We had that huge run up from 1970 to 1980. That was that big inflationary period. And then we had the next run from about 2003 up to around 2011, 2012. And then we've started this, you could say we started in 2015 because that was the bottom, but it's kind of been bouncing sideways, let's face it, till about 2019. So 2019 is really where we started to see some action. And if you look at, because we've had this period of consolidation, when the price is up a bit higher, people think that's the high in the market, as opposed to that's just the start of the next run, right? So, and I don't know if I can share my screen with you, mate. It's probably worth just zooming in, having a look at this. Let me...
Yeah, load that up. It should come to me at the appropriate time, and I'll put it up for you.
Let's have a look at this one. This is what I was talking about now. So that's what I'm talking about. There's these 3 cycles in this broader credit cycle. So we're in since 1973. There's been no gold standard. There's been no discipline or anchor to the creation of credit. So what we've seen is inevitably, and we saw this blow off up here in the GFC, but then it kept going through that. And then what we then saw is a tightening period, right? So they were tightening monetary policy. And then in about October last year, we saw that starting to turn. Now, everyone just looks at the US Fed and thinks if you look at global liquidity, if I can share another screen with you, mate. If I can, let me have a look. So if I can go to another one, and this is what I think everyone should be keeping an eye on, because the old saying, follow the money. So if people want to see these, this is literally, I think Friday, a week ago, there was an article. So the article was called Global Liquidity, Gold and Bitcoin, right? So what this does is there's a fairly predictable 5 to 6 year cycle of global liquidity, and that's all across the world, not just the Fed, all across the world. And if you line this up with what's happened with gold, there's a remarkable correlation. And so what we saw is all this tightening, right after all the largesse of COVID. We're just printing money hand over fist, and then they kind of had to turn that around because inflation was getting out of control, so they tightened to try and get the inflation under control. And then late last year, it started to turn, right? And then if you overlay gold, so we saw this, look at that. So gold just followed that liquidity all the way up. They started to tighten, coming down here. This is the Global Liquidity Index. But what happened? Russia invaded Ukraine. Now, gold has many masters, and one of which is a safe haven play. So there was a bid into gold at a time when it really should have been falling, right? And bid into the Ukraine war. Then what happens inevitably after that is people lose interest because it's just a war somewhere else and we don't particularly care. And what happened? It fell again, but look where it's turned around. So as the global liquidity started to turn in around October last year, right, and it's a bumpy coming out of this, right, absolutely, as it was last time. But look what gold's doing. So gold is just following the money, and that's what it does. So when people are saying that, they're, and also come, how do I stop sharing that?
Well, and it's a big difference too, isn't it? I mean, there's a huge difference between global liquidity and gold today.
Yeah, gold's value is that it is intrinsic, right? Its value is in and of itself. Yeah. They can print money hand over fist, as we've seen them do time and time again, right? So when smart people see that, they think, well, that's just debasing my currency, debasing the value of everything. And gold, you can't do that. So gold is where people will go that are seeing that play. So as they're loosening money, easy money, printing it, gold will always protect you through that. And that's what is absolutely and utterly coming. It started elsewhere, so that turn has been China and Japan. The US, I think the market is betting May that they'll start dropping rates. So the market's looking through, and that's what we're starting to see in gold. So we're starting to see the start of that third cycle. But this time, so you look at those three cycles, the 1970s was just an inflation play. If you go back forward, if you look at the 1940s, so people are trying to think, where are we? Are we in the 40s or the 70s? So the 40s was all about the record debt coming out of the war. 70s was all about inflation. So we're seeing both of those at the same time now. So we've got inflation, we've got record debt, and then we've also got this imbalance in valuations where we've got share markets at incredible valuation ratios, so particularly in the tech space. So we've got this trifecta of imbalances at the moment that are just music to the gold market's ears, and it's starting to see it. So it's a absolutely perverse situation at the moment, and that inevitably has the usual outcome.
I'm going to ask you a question. It might take you into territory that you have no business talking about, so say so if that's the case. But the Perth Mint, one of the biggest, if not the biggest client the Perth Mint has is China. I'm sure there are other countries that are buying gold and or silver or other precious metals out of Australia as well. Is there a point where we as Australians need to start looking at the gold that's coming out of our ground from a national perspective, a national security perspective, or is that indeed already happening?
Oh, that implies far more foresight than I think our leaders have, Carl. Sadly, most of the gold, let's face it, the Perth Mint is the biggest gold refiner in the world. And Australia is not the biggest consumer by any means. So China, by example, and in partial answer to where one should go, every ounce that China mines they keep, and they're the biggest producer in the world. So we're the second and third between Russia, but and we export most of it. So sadly, no. Perth Mint's even a state-owned, mint. But no. And look, all anecdotally in the market, beyond anecdotally, the pricing is saying it's fact, is China have been rapacious in their consumption in the last couple of months. So the premiums that are getting paid for gold going into China have seen other markets starved because they're chasing the money, as you do. And so China it'll be very interesting to see the next lot of proper data that comes out, because anecdotally, people are having trouble getting gold because it's getting consumed by China, and they're paying a premium for it.
Wow. So only anecdotally at this stage, you're not having trouble finding it at all?
No, there's been pressures. Absolutely, it's not been. So there's definitely pressures in getting gold because of the premiums that China's paying. Yep. Right. So we're fine, but definitely seeing it.
If we had to hypothesize why China would be willing to pay, because bear in mind they're the hammer outerers of very, very tight deals, why would they be prepared to spend more than the gold is worth and in huge quantities. Can we hypothesize for what
and,
reason?
and on top of what they produce, Carl, they're already the biggest
And on
producers.
top of what they produce, the fact they sell nothing.
It's quite extraordinary. Look, we could speculate all day. I think everyone can read the global play at the moment. There's, we're between the BRICS
everybody except our bloody politicians, I think, mate.
Yeah, no, it's just a pet rock. I think so the BRICS countries are definitely, it's not speculation. They are trading outside of the US dollar. There's gold involved. There's oil involved. So I think and they are. If you look at who's in BRICS, that's a massive portion of the world population.
And you mentioned when we're talking about silver, that India has been buying huge amounts of silver over the last couple of years, and other countries involved with BRICS, Brazil, I think, is another. So, this has been going on for a little while, and yet, we're still waiting for our coins to go through the roof, which brings me to another point. China, while they are keeping all their own gold and getting a hell of a lot of ours, they do make some beautiful lunar dragon coins. Have you got any left?
They don't make them. Perth Mint do.
Beg your pardon.
Yeah. No, we do have some of those left, and they're beautiful. So the 1 ounce are the particularly rare ones. So we always sell out of those, as does everyone, because they're a very limited mintage. But you can get 1/20ths, 1/4s, 1/2s, 2 ounce, 10 ounce. They don't run out, so you do have time to get them at your leisure. But and then there's the silver variety as well.
Absolutely. But speaking of the silver variety, Christmas time is coming up, and there might be a few nans and pops watching at the moment who are scratching their head, wondering what they're going to go and get their tween or teenage grandson or daughter. The idea of one of those beautiful Ainslie rounds, either in half ounce or ounce, strikes me as a brilliant Christmas gift. I'm not trying to sell it on you, but just a thought.
No, and look, this looks very staged, I imagine, but in all honesty, every Christmas we get a lot of grandparents coming in doing exactly that, and a pretty common comment is, I give them this gift and they just, they end up playing with the box, not the gift, and then neither in a couple of months, whereas this thing, they'll have forever. And so there's, and let's face it, the younger people don't understand what's happening or coming. I think the older people have been through enough that they can see where we're at, and they're starting to prepare for their kids or grandkids.
Yeah, and if what's coming comes sooner rather than later, those younger people are going to get a huge wake-up call and wish they paid a bit more notice. Maybe started collecting a few more of those coins themselves.
Bit less Avo on toast and a few more silver coins, Carl. Yep.
That might be the way to do it, Paul. That might exactly be the way to do it. All right, mate. They could ride their way to less Avo on their, battery-powered, full of silver, may I add, eco scooter.
And platinum. Don't forget platinum. And you talk about the setup for silver. Tell you what, the setup for platinum is equally, if not more, compelling than silver at the moment, because it is absolutely crucial to all of this hydrogen fuel cell and renewable energy space. And silver comes from a byproduct of a lot of different mining. Platinum, not so, and most of it from South Africa, Russia. So you've got two major suppliers that are in a bit of strife. And the sorts of deficits that we're looking at last year and again this year projected are incredible. So platinum's a bit like silver. Wears two hats. You've got your platinum jewelry, you've got your monetary metal play, but it's industrial play with hydrogen fuel cell technology is looking compelling as well.
And there's more and more of that coming up every other day, including the one that Tim Dwyer came up with that's in our vehicle. Which I have to say has so far performed beyond my wildest expectations. Absolutely amazing. We've dropped over 20, I think it's over 23 kilometres per litre per 100 kilometres, I beg your pardon, 23 litres per 100 Ks. It's staggering the difference that it's made. So that's something to keep an eye on for the future too. And
definitely.
Get a little bit of platinum in your pocket if you can. And of course, people can pop in and find you in Brisbane, in Creek Street, aren't you?
Sure can, and in Melbourne, in Collins Street. Yep.
Yep. Pretty easy to find and a great crew down there. If I don't see you before Christmas, Michael, I hope you will pass on our very best to your team, and hope you and your family have a wonderful Christmas. You will be going into a form of, reclusiveness. I'm not going to say retirement. Is that happening at the end of this year or early next year?
No. So middle of next year. So Michael's moving up from Melbourne to take over the reins of the whole group, and great hands. And 6 months of transition, and then so we'll see. There's a few other things I still like to play with, but we'll certainly handing buttons to Michael.
Motorhome, and you want to come on the road with me for a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We're going to do a roadie.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, mate. You have yourself a great one, and please pass on our best to everybody in the Brisbane office, and thank them for the help that they've given all our Voice of Freedom followers for this year. And thank you. Hope we can keep this going for as long as we can keep this going. This is a very exciting ride for me. Never having been in this sort of market, or indeed a position where I even have an interest in this market. So thank you for helping me with that too.
Mate, our pleasure, and very Merry Christmas to all your listeners, and we look forward to continuing the ride, and hopefully the ride up and to the right with the price. Yep.
Absolutely. Cheers, mate. Have a good one.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Well, there you go, folks. How are you? That was one I recorded early with Paul, because he's a busy man in the nights. He's got lots of kids and things to do. Hope you're having a good day. This is going to be wrapped up fairly smartly, because a lot of you will be going off to a meeting with Tim Dwyer tonight to get a bit of a feel for these pain patches and what you may or may not be able to do with them in a business. I'm going to pop my head in there too. So there are a few things to talk about. So let's start with the fact that I may or may not be able to do a show tomorrow night. Not completely sure. I have to go and get something cut out of my head. It's right here. Do you want to have a closer look? Now, be prepared if you're eating dinner. This is a very close look at something that looks a bit weird on the side of my head. It's not terribly flash. There you go. That's what seems to be growing on the side of my head at a rapid rate. So won't hold it up there too long. So I'm going off to go and have that looked at tomorrow and see what the doctor says. You can just imagine how happy I am about that. I do have very sharp knives of my own, but I'm reliably informed that I'm not allowed to cut it out myself. So, we'll see what happens, I guess. There are a couple of, what I think today are very interesting videos that you should be made aware of. First of all, let's have a look where the wind's blowing. Right now, that is a look at Tropical Cyclone Jasper. Now, Jasper is sitting off the Queensland coast, as you can tell. They're making all sorts of predictions for its track, but at the moment, it is predicted to hit somewhere north of Mackay. This is a forecaster has put this together, a bunch of independent forecasters, I should say, and they've got themselves some new access to data. And so they've given these tracks as a guide to where this thing could go. So as you can see, there is a southern track, but most of them seem to be going north and north of Mackay at this stage. That's not going to help everybody who's up there in Proserpine and Bowen and Ingham and Townsville and Cairns and Cooktown. It will be persistently pouring down there. I have absolutely no fear. So good luck to you while you're going to be battling through that. It's a pain in the ass, I know, but what are you going to be able to do about it? Not much. Batten down the hatches. Make sure that you've got your cyclone set up in place and ready to go. I want to share with you folks a video. He says trying to find it. What is it going to? Let me see if it'll give me this window. There you go. I want to share this file with you. Now, this is Lydia Thorpe, who today took UNDRIP to the Parliament.
The question is that the motion moved by Senator Thorpe we agreed to The eye shall pass to the right of the chair, the most to the left of the chair. I appoint Senator Thorpe to tell it for the eyes, Senator Scarlett to tell it for the nose.
Not a lot of movement. In fact, exactly none. Look at all the vacant seats.
The result of the division is ayes 10, noes 27. The question is resolved in the negative. And I'll allow senators who are not participating in the next part before I...
Doesn't matter what he was going to allow him to do. It didn't really matter anyway. I guess that goes to show exactly how seriously the Parliament took it, because practically none of them turned up. I think there were 36. How many do we have in the Parliament? 70-something. Approximately half, maybe less than half, turned up to actually listen to this drivel and her putting forward this UNDRIP treaty by deceit plan. At least you now know who the usurpers are in Parliament, folks. So, in case you weren't sure, Chris Kenny found one. Have a look at this.
I've just returned from Pakistan after seeing my Ammi. Australia's criminal inaction on climate is deeply felt there.
Hang on, let's just stop it there. Australia's criminal action? An Australian senator in the Australian Senate talking about the plight of another country and labelling her own country criminal. What's going on here? Have a look at some more.
I've just returned from Pakistan after seeing my Ammi. Australia's criminal inaction on climate is deeply felt there, felt in the extreme heat, felt in the melting glaciers washing away entire villages, and felt in the everyday life of children in Pakistan who are suffocating in an ever-deadly mix of intense heat and trapped pollution. So we must remember also to lift our gaze. We must start a process of making climate reparations to the Global South countries who are most harmed by Australia's contribution to the climate crisis.
Australia is criminal. Australia is to blame. Australia harms Pakistan and we should pay reparations. This is disgusting.
Bloody madness, I would say that is. Now, somehow that woman got voted in to the Australian Parliament. God, I hope she doesn't get to stay there long. That's just not good at all. What else have I got written down here? A couple of things. In fact, I don't think we need to worry about that. I do have a few comments that are starred that I do want to just mention. Thank you, Sunflower, for your offer. And when I come to the Sunshine Coast, I will be in touch. George and Martin seem to be having a great chat about Rick and whatever was said in last night's show. Look, I've had all sorts of people contact me saying all sorts of things that Rick has said about me. I don't care. Last night, somebody told him that I called him a Shriner Mason. I've never called Ricardo Bosey a Shriner Mason. I have mentioned Shriner Masons while I've been talking about Bosey, but not in the same context as it. Quite often, I will throw little things in. You might recall I quite often ask you to go and do your own research on things like Ashkenazi Jews and Khazaria and, all sorts of interesting. I'm not going to try and get myself banned off the other channels by mentioning other things. But I do ask you to do your own research on a whole heap of things. Nothing different to looking into the different strains of Mason and Freemasonry. The Knights Templar were Freemasons. Still orders of them. There are different rites. Do you know the difference? There are different sects within Freemasonry. And, we've been talking about some of those. So have I ever called Rick a Freemason? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Now, apparently Rick's gone and prepared this whole great history on me, telling everybody that, my grandparents were Masonic. If they've gone to that sort of trouble, I'd be amazed. If they have, I can guarantee you it's wrong, particularly as it apparently tells them I come from my Polish grandparents' strain. I don't have any Polish grandparents. I don't have any relationship to Polish people at all. I have a relationship to German people. But maybe then they got their names wrong. Look, I'd love to see the document. If such a thing exists, I will roar laughing because I can prove every bit of it wrong right now. But I'm not going to tell you how because, well, it would take the fun out of it when I see the actual document, to be honest. So by all means, bring that document on. I would love to see it. I've heard that. I've heard all sorts of things. The Freemasons paid for the bus. Okay, I think I've told everybody how much we paid for the vehicle. If you want to know how much that was, go back and watch the previous shows. It's all there. I'm not going to make it easy for you. Why the hell should I? The bus was bought as a company under a company name. And there are shareholders in that company. Those shareholders put their hands up and help put us together and get us on the road. They get us on the road. They're not funding us on the road forever. And that is why we continually are asking for your help to keep us on the road. They're not expecting to get anything out of it. They're not looking for any return out of it. In fact, there is, I think, only one, possibly two of the shareholders that are involved. And one of them, in fact, probably more than one of them, you are familiar with. They're doing it because, they want to be involved. And a couple of them are going to hope get a return out of it, particularly a couple that you already know. So it's a very small little group that put this together, a very small little group, and every member of it, I'm pretty confident I've met face to face, shaken the hand of, and had a talk about or talk with. So if I haven't done it face to face, then it's certainly been on the phone. So I have every confidence that the people who backed us into getting the Freedom Broadcasting Network outside broadcast van on the road are genuine people who want to make genuine change and have given me the opportunity, along with Cass, to make that difference. And I can't thank them enough for it. So if anybody wants to come and query that with me, I'm more than happy to have that conversation as well. And look, if there is proof that any of them are involved with Freemasonry, I'm not holding my breath there. Well, I guess we'll have to have that chat then. But yeah, I'm not, as far as I'm aware, I was only mentioned and I wasn't even mentioned by name because he won't do that. I was only mentioned at the end of it because somebody apparently asked the question that I said he was a Shriner Mason. And he said, show the proof, which is exactly what I'm saying to you. Go back and watch that video. I don't call Rick a Shriner Mason at all. I want to see the proof of the supposed things he's saying about me. And I don't care if he's saying them. I really don't. It doesn't worry me at all. There is no conflict here. There is a measure of disappointment on my behalf. And privately, I think, in a couple of emails, I have outlined to people why I feel disappointed. But I think I'm feeling disappointed for the same reason many of you are feeling disappointed. It's not a matter of getting angry. It's not a matter of getting upset or trying to tear them down and build me up. Not at all. I don't care enough about what they're doing to distract me away from trying to help us build up community. We've discovered that they're not doing that unless they're going to take the ideas from my place and adopt them as their own some months later and then try and claim some form of ownership to them. That's disappointing. But at the end of the day, if they're going to go out and build more of these communities and more of this is going to grow and we can all come together for a better future for us all, then it's a win-win. I have no problem with that. I just don't see why we should be wasting resources, doubling things up, or like Darren was saying in last night's chat, why we should be fighting each other at the polls if it is, decided that there might be another attempt at a political solution. You can see my thoughts on that. But, there is no animosity here. Dave and I were going to catch up as I came past Wollongong. Unfortunately, timings and, an issue that I had screwed up the time I was going to have to stay there and do something with him. But that was a very genuine thing. We were definitely going to catch up. Universe just kept us apart, I guess. And unfortunate as it may be, that's what it turned out to be. But certainly no animosity. And I don't care what they say about me. Just don't care. I've got better things to do. At the moment, those better things seems to be trying to help you guys as much as possible get rid of your pain, because that's going to help me get the bus fixed. I do need to get some work done on the engine, particularly finding the holes in the things that normally have air going through them without holes surrounding the engine. It isn't just one hose, it's a number of them apparently, and we need to A, identify where all of them are, B, replace those that we can replace, and C, fabricate something to fix the ones that we can't replace. Otherwise, I'm just going to have the problem with the vehicle on the road somewhere and be stranded somewhere, and I'd prefer not to have that happen. So that's our next job, and that's nothing with these things is, the temporary fix cost $2,000. So nothing with these things is cheap. And this is certainly not the right time of the year to go out trying and finding money for these sorts of things. So the pain patches offer a small commission to Voice of Freedom and the Freedom Broadcasting Network if you buy them. If they work for you, as I pray they do, as they've worked for me and for Carol and many others that I've tried them on. And in fact, the people who I'm sending the first or I've sent the first bunch of freebies out to should be starting to receive yours. Hopefully, if Australia Post are doing the right thing, you should start receiving them either towards the end of this week or certainly early next week. And I'm waiting for them to deliver my new batch so that I can send all of those out to the people who are on my waiting list for those. You will get those, well, hopefully in the next 2 weeks or so. And I'm not going to get enough patches in this first order that's coming to me to cover everybody on my list. So I've got to wait for that next order to come, which I believe is going to be, could maybe be up to a week later. And then I'll be able to fulfill the rest of those folks who have asked me to share a couple of these patches with you in the hope that they've give you the kind of relief that they've given me and many other people. And if they don't, well, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. But I won't see you lose anything. So I will make this undertaking. If you buy these patches and they don't work for you after 2 days or 3 days and you can't feel them doing anything for you at all, or even after a week, then I'll buy what you've got left off you for what you paid for them. And I will give them away to people so they can try them for themselves. I don't guarantee it's going to work for everybody. I don't give medical advice, and I certainly don't give financial advice. Neither do Ainslie Bullion, but that was a pretty good chat with Paul, and a lot of information in there for folks. So all I can offer them to you is, try them if you can. But bear in mind, if you're going to send me an email and you want me to send you a couple, the waiting list now means you probably won't get them until the new year. It may well be faster to just try it for a month yourself and see whether or not it makes any difference to your pain levels or any difference to your life. And if it does, then you can make a decision of whether or not you want to keep going on with it or not. But there is certainly no obligation to keep buying them at all. Make sure you untick that auto renew feature if you're actually going in and ordering, folks. But they really do amazing things for me and for many of the people that I've met. I hope and pray they do the same for you. Sunflower, thank you so much for your super sticker. I can't thank you enough. It is something that keeps me alive on certain weeks, I've got to be honest. So thank you so much. It's greatly appreciated. I'm I'm not going to keep going on too much more tonight, folks. There's obviously a few things going on here. People want to talk about Rick and right. Somebody said that Darren was a Jesuit Freemason. Well, he is a builder, but I have asked him directly, and he's looked me in the eye and said he's not. So all I can do is take him at his word, and I feel, he's a genuine bloke. I think most of us feel that he's a genuine bloke, don't we? So until I get shown otherwise or he demonstrates otherwise, then I have no reason to believe at this stage that he is anything other than he appears to be, and that is a man of high moral standards, a man who is dedicated to his own community and helping others in their communities grow, learn, unite, and overcome the tyranny that we've been experiencing in our lives. Thank you for joining me tonight, folks, and I really appreciate the time that you do spend with me. I'm sorry I can't be longer tonight, but I have to appear in Tim's Zoom. Otherwise, Corinne will be getting very angry at me. So if you are or have gone and bought one of these patch packs over the last however long, week or so, you will have received an email from me saying that the show is on tonight. Here's a link for Tim's Zoom. If you're going into that, I'll see you in there. If not, folks, I will chat to you again tomorrow night. Oh, I did have a chat with our man in the gold mines. When I say our man in the gold mines, I'm talking about my mate up in far north Queensland. So I'll bring you up to speed with his news from up there. And maybe there's a few of you that might be interested in going gold mining. Might have an opportunity for you. I can trust me. There aren't too many dickheads on the roads where we're going.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's ride!
Hey, just a quick one. I CSW, you put in there black salve, black salve, black salve. Yes, I don't have any. I don't know where to get it. The only person that I knew that had it doesn't talk to me anymore. So I don't know. I was going to put some comfrey oil on it, but that's only because I have a stupid addiction to comfrey oil. Thank you, Alan. I know it wouldn't help, but I just like the smell of it. I don't know. It's weird. But yes, I will. I'm sure they'll probably try and get a biopsy or something of the thing tomorrow. But yeah, if I can get some black salve and some instructions on how to use it, I'll certainly give it a go. Have yourself a good night, folks. Bye.